GECV is back. His cousin Floyd. How you doing, brother? Pleased
I'm
to
doing great, man. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here. It's nice to meet you too.
jumping straight in. Give us a quick look rundown. Where are you from, brother?
I'm actually from Ontario, Canada, in a little city just north of Toronto called Barrie. Um, yeah, I originally grew up in Muskoka. It's a small little area about an hour and a half north of here. It's up in the bush, pretty much. So, yeah,
Your
that's pretty
musical,
much it.
your musical journey is a little bit different. I mean, from starting off playing sax at high school, jazz sax of all things as well, then
Yeah,
gravitating to playing drums again as in a jazz genre.
yeah.
Why? What was it? Something like, for example, was it people like Al Foster and Charlie Parker, and was it your
Yeah, there's like
them
yeah,
had
man. I
you
had a lot of
into it?
like Chet Baker influences, like Joe Venturi, a lot of like old traditional like jazz stuff, like even just like stuff from like the 1930s, like there's like King Oliver's Creole jazz band, like just a lot of big things like that. Ben Burney, Bing Crosby, all those kinds of things, I just gravitated towards that stuff so much, Frank Sinatra, Paul Anka, like it was just a road that I was always just so attracted to because it just musically it was just so different and like and just when with the way that like modern music was for me, there was so much going on, everything from techno to metal and and then just punk rock and and then rock and roll and then you have classic rock and you know what I mean. It just starts getting all really like complicated and stuff where it's like that stuff was just music, man. Like it was just like it was just straight up raw voices and orchestras and stuff, and I just there was such an attraction to it because it was just beautiful, and you just found yourself getting lost in it and wondering why people almost kind of forgot about it in a way. You know what I mean? And I just found like growing up playing like jazz, but also liking like punk rock bands and metal bands and stuff. My dad showed me a lot of like Metallica and AC/DC and like all those like Guns N' Roses, like all Ozzy Osbourne, like all that stuff, Motley Crue, and I was just so like, as a kid, you're just so like dumbfounded. And then when you see like the progression of it, it was super cool to just be able to like take like what I knew in jazz music and what I loved in like punk rock, and then I joined a band as a drummer, and it was like, okay, let's do this now. You know what I mean? It was like, let's take what I know as a jazz musician and do things in like a progressive sort of way. And I played in a band called Sons of Sirens for a while, and that was kind of where we really did all of that, and we really kind of pushed that sort of jazz elemental, sort of heavy, and I didn't even really know how to explain it. It was just a lot of fun, man. We didn't really put ourselves in a box, and that's what the point kind of was with music for us.
Would you agree then that at some point though, there's a crossover in there? You're mentioning bands like with AC/DC, Metallica, etc. That there is that necessity to actually be able to understand what jazz music is about, to be able to understand what their riffs are.
Oh, absolutely, man. I found even just like even like when I kind of as I got older, like there were so many bands that I like started to discover, and and so many bands that kind of became like this almost a niche, if you will. They were like there was just like there was there was like music, and then there was like this pocket of bands. You know what I mean? Like it was like, and it was awesome. Like some of them. Actually, the one record label that I always went to is called Blue Swan Records, and it's by a guy like Will Swan from a band called Dance Gavin Dance. And they're like a huge, massive band, but it's like when you listen to them technically and musically, like the way that they're playing things, you're just like your mind gets blown. You know what I mean? So like I found that I always gravitated towards like the progressional aspect and that whole side of music. Where it's like what's one more thing I can add into it that's not gonna like be too much on the song, but more of an influential sort of take from something else. Say you're doing like I don't know, say you're doing like a jazzy, like kind of hip hop style song, and then out of nowhere you throw in this like ska kind of guitar part or something. You know what I mean? Like there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to like mess around with that and at least see what it sounds like. So I think that's kind of where I spend a lot of my time.
What prompted the swing then from jazz over to punk? I mean, playing
Honestly, man,
like
I think like,
Sons of Sirens. I mean, it's a complete
yeah,
shift away from it, isn't it? Is it a
yeah,
personal thing?
I think so, man. I think it was just because it was like, if you take something that was, I mean, if you go back to like the 1920s, 30s, and the 40s, and even into like the 50s and stuff, when they started doing like, 40s and the 50s were really like when that whole like rock and roll thing really started to come to life, right? So I found that like, like if you look back at like that era and like the simplicity of everything, you know what I mean? Just like I'm talking everything, like everything from going to the video game arcade and putting a penny in to play a game. You know what I mean? And where now it's like you go to an arcade and you're spending like $35 just to get a couple tokens. You know what I'm saying? Like it's or something like that. So it's just that small example is just like the simplicity of just even music. Like back then it was you played what you felt, and everybody was writing what they felt, and they weren't just like, sure, people weren't like swearing and cursing and stuff like that in a lot of their songs back then because they were speaking about love, and or they're sometimes they were speaking about songs that were like kind of like sexually appointed in weird ways, that people would look at, like like that song "Baby It's Cold Outside," like people took that and made a big huge thing out of it, and it's like I understand, but it's like that song, if you look at it back in like what it was simple. It was just a song about
Timeless.
Christmas, what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, now it's a different look at, but I just, that it's just the music, man. I find that just we all gravitated towards such a beautiful like art, and like I've spent so much time like trying to be that kid that stood like outside of the box when it comes to like creating music. And like I find that like when I look at what was created before, like what influenced everything that we all listen to now, I find that like there's no harm in going back to revisit it and pay tribute and homage and be inspired and influence off of it.
Was Sons of Sirens your first step into being part of a band?
Yeah, I think like I played in bands in high school, but like Sons of Sirens was like the first like real band that I like did stuff with. We toured Canada a few times. We did like East Coast tours and played all over Ontario, and we didn't have like a huge like following or anything, but like we did well in our own right, I would say, and all the guys, they were fantastic musicians, like absolute marvels on the instruments, but yeah, it just we all just kind of gravitated, and we all kind of got older and did our own sort of things, and that's where I kind of gravitated into my own thing. I've never really stopped with doing music. I've always been going.
Do you consider yourself to be a singer-songwriter?
Yeah, I would say so, man. I would say so because like for me, I've always looked at the song and like what it is to feel that song. Like I write a lot of music that's like based off of like emotion, and whether you're pissed off or whether you're feeling sad or whether you hate your ex-girlfriend or you hate your ex-boyfriend, anything, like
That's time to write a
you know
song, in it.
you know what I mean? Like it's just like there's we we all have an algorithm or a formula that we would, some people use stuff to write poetry in, you know what I mean? Some people use certain things to paint, some people use certain things to just sit down and just like write a story, and I find that like with music, that's kind of like all of that jumbled into one. You can like tell a story and paint your own picture, and people can interpret it for themselves when the song's over, and like they can actually like feel something for their own instead of what you felt when you were writing it.
You're involved in an awful lot of different projects. Like do you
Yeah.
actually have a particular that you sit when you come to a certain project, you go, right, this is me. Be it singing, be it guitar, be it drum, be it sax. Is there something that you sit down and you go, I'm back home?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, like there's like times where like Cousin Floyd was like an experiment. You know what I mean? Like it was like it started out as me just like making beats for people, and just my buddies would be like, "Oh, like sing like this hook on my song," and I'd be like, "Sure, okay," and then it would turn into like you know, like, yeah, man, hey, you should start writing songs, you start releasing parts, or like, hey, why don't you do this verse on my song, and I'd start doing more, you know. And I'm like, hold on a second, I'm just making beats here, guys, you know, like slow down. And where home really was, man, is every time I picked up my acoustic guitar, you know, like every time I pick up my acoustic guitar, there's just like I'm sure like anybody that plays an instrument can understand, or anybody that's played an instrument, or whether it was like you're doing piano lessons when you were 8, you know, like I'm sure there was a moment we've all gotten
Even for
like
me that can,
just
drums is my thing. I love the drums, and that's where I'd feel
right.
well,
And
yeah.
I'm that same way with my drums too, right? As soon as I get behind my kit and I sit down and I especially when I play live, it's like there's like a thing that like takes over me. It's almost like there's like this evil puppeteered, and I'm just like, you know, like just like doing my thing and turning it into like this monster. But it's funny because like with my acoustic, man, it's like, God, man, I could just there's times where I could just pick up my acoustic guitar and just like strum chords, or just, you know, do some finger picking and stuff, and just weird, pretty melodic-y, just lullaby type stuff, and you just get lost in it, you know. And like 15 minutes later, you realize you've been playing for the last 15 minutes. You know what I mean? And you know what I feel like, and like that's that one thing where I've always found like it's just it's relatable, you know. That's that one spot that's never turned its back on me. You know what I mean? My acoustic guitar has always been there. Hell, actually, funny, my acoustic, my 2010 in June, I had a house fire, and my entire house like was like burning down around me. And the first thing that they carried out of my house was my black acoustic guitar that I have, and I still have it to this day. Actually, still have that guitar.
It's survived.
Yeah, it's right over, yeah, it's right over there, man. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's and like so like that, you know what I mean? Like that was like a thing for me, you know what I mean? That's actually the story of why I got like "In the Sky" tattooed on my knuckles, because my mother, she like literally walked up to me, and she was kind of like she was she was religious, like religious more so at the time. Not, I mean, not so much now, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you know, she was
Oh,
going through her own journey. She was going through her own journey, you know, but she walked up to me straight up and looked me dead in the eye, and she's like, you know, somebody's in the sky making sure that you can still play your music right now, because like that's insane. And I was like, yeah, you're right, like, because my dude, I'm telling you, like my whole house was engulfed in fire. And for them to carry out a wooden acoustic guitar, you know, you're kind of like,
of all things, a wooden acoustic guitar to survive.
and it was still in tune, by the way. Yeah, it was crazy. I walked up and picked it up off my guitar stand, and I just looked at all the firefighters, and I was like, I love every single one of you. And I just started playing my guitar as I watched my house burn down. It was
Wow.
honestly one of the weirdest little moments ever, you know what I mean? But it was like my coping thing where I was like, wow, my house is burning down, but I can still play music. That's awesome. Okay, you know. And it was like the weirdest damn thing ever, man. And you know, like even like that's when my mom walked up, she's like, oh, someone's in the sky, and the first stupid thing that goes into my young dumb head, I'm like, oh, INTHES. Oh, that's cool. You know. And immediately I
That gave
freaking
me goosebumps, man.
you know, I immediately went and got it tattooed after that, and it was hilarious. Then I saw her afterwards, and I was like, Mom, I tattooed my knuckles. You can't get mad because you said this. You know, it's hilarious.
Can I ask,
Yeah.
at that point then, have you written a song about that?
I've written like little bits about it. You know, like I've used it in like small references, never necessarily like exactly like on, you know, like my house is burning down, you know, like quite in the literal context.
Yeah,
I've
of
used
course.
it in like you know, um there's like there's actually
You
my
know,
an old
you
band
know.
that, yeah, it's like there's a band that I sang for called Rosewood Annie, and we have a song called Every Clyde Needs a Bonnie. And it's a song that I wrote about my girlfriend. And like, if you go check it out on like YouTube and stuff, it's literally called "Every Clyde Needs a Bonnie." But it's like you'll see it, and it's like it's got like
You
all the
talking about
lyrics in
Tallulah?
there. Yeah, yeah, that's her. Yeah, that's her. And actually, that music video was shot like there's a music video for that song shot like at her house in her parents' barn and stuff. So it was like a cool little thing, a song about like how we met and stuff. But like, there's a line in that where it says, "It's like we juggled the fire and we broke all the rules again." And like that like line is like kind of like for me, it's like a double entendre
Sure.
sort of thing, because it's like one of the first times that her and I were hanging out, we went like swimming at night, you know, and it was just like a total like we were just swimming at nighttime, and then out of nowhere, there's this guy who just started juggling fire on the beach. It's crazy, you know, and it was just like a romantic kind of thing, you know. And I'm a
In a
softie
flashback.
for that stuff, you know. But like when we were like hanging out and just shoot and just like shooting the shit and minding our own business, like I was like, wow, this girl's everything. But then immediately I started thinking about like when I'm writing the song, this lyric meant more to me because it was like I've juggled so much like fire and so much shit in my life, you know what I mean? And like I've broken so many rules, and we've all and it's like for me it was like it's like we juggled the fire and we broke all the rules again. And it's like I've juggled so much and it led me to like where I am now. So it's like, you could be a badass and a little, weirdo all your life or whatever. But it's like eventually if you do the right things, like you can kind of turn it around and see, there's a better outcome for yourself. And then she came along into my life. So yeah.
I must admit, I like the way you speak about
Man,
her.
she's a huge influence in my life, man. Like she supports a lot of stuff that I do. I've never met any woman like her, to be entirely honest with you. Like, she came into my life and she like welcomed me into hers while, with my daughter and everything, my daughter Cedar, and it's like, yeah, like my daughter obviously, like she lives with her mother and stuff, but it's like when she's here, like, Tallulah is like, she's like a stepmom in a way. She's like that. She loves Cedar the same way that I would want somebody to love Cedar, you know what I mean? And like, but it was effortless. It wasn't like, oh, are you cool with me having a kid? She's like, yeah, I love that you have a kid, and I was like, holy crap.
Wow.
And then it was like she wants to like she and then just into the music. It was so cool, like, and she's got such good taste in music and just a good outlook on it, and just she's always supporting me to do things. Hell, before I was getting ready to do this, she's like, are you good to go? Are you ready? She's like, I made you some food. Are you good? And I was just like, wow, you're freaking like you're just, like she's just the best. She's everything you could ever ask for in somebody, man. She's fantastic. I love her to death.
Excellent. Okay, some quick fire questions. I have to say, you were quite difficult to write quick fire questions for because of the spread
Oh,
of
cool.
genre of your music. So we're going to do our best here. So it is about Canadian music, but it's within your genres. So,
Yeah.
Flatliners or Canadian hardcore punk?
Man, flatliners are really good. Like flatliners are awesome. Like we've pretty sure they played downtown Barrie a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken. You know, but at the same time, you can't really go wrong with some classic like hardcore Canadian punk. You know what I mean? Like, I actually have a couple of buddies who play in like some really good like hardcore bands up here in Canada. So,
The Real Mackenzies or Kill Matilda?
Kill Matilda.
Good call.
Sorry,
Or Comeback Kid?
what was the first one?
Favor Drive or Comeback
Mm,
Kid?
Comeback Kid for sure.
The Riptides or the Gruesomes?
Gruesomes.
Hanson Brothers or Knucklehead?
I mean, like, I mean, like, the Hanson brothers are iconic. You know what I
Absolutely
mean? And
classic,
like
isn't
that,
it?
I mean, like, I don't know a single person that isn't ever gonna have that hook in their head. Like, you know what I mean? Hell, I was at work one day when I went at the tattoo shop that I work at, the one location we had, and the manager I was working with, I just heard him out in the front. I'm in literally in the back of the shop, okay, like in a door hidden away, and then I just hear him go, bop, 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 and then I just yell at the top of my lungs, like it was just hilarious, man. And like everybody in the shop just started laughing their ass off because they all knew what it was. So Hanson brothers for sure.
Coltrane or Charlie Parker?
Oh, Charlie Parker.
Sonny Rollins or Dexter Gordon?
Sonny.
Lou Donaldson or Joshua Redman?
Lou Donaldson.
Nickelback or Rush?
Rush.
Oh, that surprised me. Good call.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
No, Rush, man, for sure. All day. As a drummer, Neil Peart was like a huge thing. You know what I mean? And my one friend Hannah, actually, she was from up here in Muskoka. Her uncle was Neil Peart, actually. And like so there's like we always had like a lot of cool talks about Rush and stuff like that. And you know, especially after like he passed and everything, it was just, you know, just always something just kind of like look back on fondly and just remember those like cool moments that like were had. And just the, one of the best Canadian bands in like the world, man. You know what I mean? Like I can say Canadian band in the world because like they were that's actually, you know, back to what we were saying earlier about like jazz and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Look at like the progression and like the tempos and the time signatures that were played, and just like, you know, just the absolute sorcery that was going on in your head the whole time. You're just like, what? You're trying to follow like, you know, you want to bang your head, but you're like you're having an aneurysm as you're trying to head bang because you don't know if you're on time or off time. You know, it's fantastic. You know, and I love that. Keep people guessing, dude. Like
Crash Test Dummies or Cowboy Junkies?
Crash Test Dummies.
Trooper or Steppenwolf?
Trooper. I would say Trooper.
Good call. I like that as well. Well done, man.
Yeah, Trooper for sure.
Let's talk about Twist Tie and the self-titled track Twist Tie.
Yeah,
that seemed like a step forward for you vocally as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Like I think I think wait 1 second here. Somebody's trying to call me right now. So basically like I think like with Twist Tie, it was definitely a step forward for sure. But like where I found we really like gravitated with that band was it and it's still it is still a band. We're still going. It's just we're kind of taking a little bit of a break right now, just because our guitar player is just figuring some stuff out. And basically like that band that I was talking about earlier, Rosewood Annie,
Yeah.
that is Twist Tie. So like Twist Tie is like a rebrand of Rosewood Annie, and like Rosewood Annie's the history of that was like it was Ben's band. They went out to Halifax, they came back to Barrie, you know what I mean, and like made a lot of waves and like, you know, in the local music scene, got put in AP magazine, you know, like they were making some big moves. And then their vocalist ended up leaving. They were looking for a new vocalist, and I was just out of like Sons of Sirens and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and, you know, just wanting to do something new, you know what I mean? And I had never really like fronted a band as like a singer vocalist for like a punk rockish kind of, you know, like that type of like rock band, you know what I mean? Like every other band that I was in, it was all like the whole time, you know, like it was just screaming and yelling and stuff. And, you know, for me, it was like I wanted to do something where I could like sing and just and express how I was feeling, you know what I mean? And be a little teen angsty 30-year-old. Pardon me. And you know, and like Twist Tie, like when me and Ben decided to rebrand Rosewood Annie, we did it straight up as just a two-piece. It was just him and I together as a two-piece band. And with that single, like we literally recorded that here at my house. I shot the music video and stuff for it. You know, I had help with my buddy Nick Heinrichs, helping me out with that. He like helped us with a lot of like the scenes and stuff that we were shooting together, because the scenes that I was in, I couldn't really hold the camera. You know, so we did a lot of cool stuff. And my girlfriend shot some of the scenes in that music video as well. And yeah, like Twist Tie, man, it's kind of weird to even like talk about it in a weird way, because it's like we're like kind of stopped at this point. You know, we have another single that we were getting ready to release, but we're just kind of waiting to see what we can do with it right now. We have a music video that we started that we're waiting to finish, and, you know, so there's just a couple of things that are in the air with that right now. But I'm honestly, it's a passion project. You know, I'm very, very proud of that one, and very honored to even be a part of it, because honestly, man, that guy Ben, the guitar player, one of the best guitar players I've ever come across in my entire life. Like, I have genuinely never seen or met anybody play the guitar that guy does. Wow. And, you know, you ever heard of Billy Talent?
Yeah.
You know, like Billy Talent. So like the guitar player in that has a way of being like a rhythm and lead guitar player. He'll play like chords and do like lead things, you know, and you're just like, how's that happening? that's what Ben does. You know what I mean? And you're just like, how are you even human? You know, I mean, there are days where I sit here and just look at him. I'm like, you're
That's a
crazy.
hell of a compliment.
Yeah, no, dude, he is he's a blessing, dude. He's watching that guy mess around on that fretboard is just a real treat. And I just appreciate it because I'm, you know, I appreciate the music. So
Now, I've got to touch upon the most messed up Christmas song, Lost Boys Christmas. Wow. That's coming down your chimney with a key.
Oh man, that's so funny. Yeah. The Lonely Boys.
That's
Yeah.
probably the best Christmas song since the Pogues and Kirsty McCall.
The Lonely Boys Christmas song is that's hilarious. That's awesome. Because like my girlfriend's even looking at me shaking her head right now because like every time that song gets put
That
on, man.
really caught me off guard.
Believe me, man, that's kind of the point, you know, like that whole song, it was made as a joke, like it was, you know, like obviously like we've had our party days, you know, if I've been party days when I was younger, you know, it's like, but like, dude, like that was just, it was just one of those kind of like, man, let's just make a completely like obnoxiously hilarious Christmas song. You know what I mean? And be like, yeah, what can it be? I'd be like, oh man, let's like, I don't know. I'll write something about like wanting like cocaine on my wish list, and you write something about being Santa coming down and cookies and stealing shit, and you know, like let's be like these. You know what? Let's be the tattooed hoodlums that everybody thinks that we are. You know, and it was perfect. You know, it was a complete like farcy kind of like joke. You know, but it's honestly it's catchy as hell.
Really great song. I thought it was absolutely superb. I played it
Thanks, man.
before. I loved it.
Thanks. I'm glad. Yeah, you know, I think if anybody can appreciate like the humor of it and stuff, you know, it's like that's just it. You know, like sure, man, we've all partied, we've all gotten messed up in our lives, you know, but it's like that might have been a time ago, like for us, fuck, for myself, even and 3-5 years ago, you know, I was lost completely, you know. Um, but like now, man, it's like when I look at where it is now, it's kind of just funny to look back on. You're kind of like. All I want for this Christmas, you know, get stuck in your head, man. Why not? Let's have fun.
Tracks like Down in Depression, Neon Demon, and Jump Out, they seem like a real, especially Down in something real personal to you.
Yeah, Down in Depression was definitely like, you know, like that one, because like that's like the three of us. That's myself, my buddy Rada. He's actually the founder of Lonely Boys. Like Rada is like one of the reasons that I am even cousin Floyd next to my cousin Josh Porter and my cousin Mike. Pardon me. But like Down in Depression was it was myself, Rada, and our buddy Avant Garde, my buddy Z. And like when the three of us get together to make some tracks, man, it becomes its own thing, you know, like we just vibe off of one another. And like with like that song, there was actually a collection of songs that was on a little EP called Alone at Last. And I think it was called Alone at Last. Maybe I'm forgetting the name right now. But it was a little 3-track EP thing. And it had a song called Moonlight, Tired, and Down in Depression on it. And like they all were sort of like in a realm of like a musical direction, and like that more meant like we kind of wanted to follow a sort of like direction with it lyrically, you know, with Tired, it was, you know, had like a sort of presence of just, you know, we are just tired, just, you know, like literally like the beginning of that song, you literally hear me go like, I just want to get out of my head, you know, like, and I literally just say that I'm just like, oh fuck, because like I was literally going through it, man. Like I was going through absolute hell. So like me singing that was an actual like I just want to get out of my head. Like I was just so just done with it. You know, I was just like I was about to smash my head into a friggin' window. You know, I just couldn't take my own sanity anymore. So those songs I found were just a real like escape, you know, and like Down in Depression was kind of like that one that was that it was exactly what it is. It was just down in depression, you know, like, oh, like why are you down, man? have no idea. I'm depressed as hell and I could never tell you why, you know? And it was just, I don't know, it was like a really weird, like sort of time. It was actually, it was a dark time because it was like I was worrying a lot about myself and my mentality and just, you know, like I was always trying to just figure out whether or not like music was what I was going to be doing, you know, and like it's weird. It's like it was like I was questioning my own existence, you know, and questioning whether or not I was even like deserving of anything, you know, because I just felt like I worked so hard to try and do something and just get somewhere and you know just allow myself to just create and you know work with the team and work with the you know and now it's like I have that, you know, and it's like I've but it's like there are times where
Part of the
even
journey.
having it, right? Yeah, and like times where it's like you have it, and we all can relate to this. There's times where you have something so good and so true and so real and natural and organic, and you for some reason you fuck that up and you throw it away. You know what I mean? Or you mess it up to the point where it slips right through your fingers and you never get the chance to hold it again, you know? Like I've had so many like voices in my head, dude, that have just constantly tried to beat me up and like tell me that, you know, you're not good enough or you're not gonna make it or you're not gonna do this or you're not gonna, you know, like why are you even trying? It's like you're 30, you're in your 30s now. Like I'm 31. So it's like, you know, but it's like I've never stopped. You know what I mean? Rolling if the Rolling Stones don't stop, why the hell should I? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm
You're not
saying?
even
Like if those
halfway
guys
there yet.
and but that's what I'm saying, dude. And like, you know, if you look at that, it's like there's no reason anybody should ever stop. If like
No.
if music's part of your life, like you should never stop creating. And like that's kind of where it is. Like whether it be Down in Depression or like, you know, any song that like we did on that EP or just like any song that I've ever done, like it's just it's always been that one escape. You know what I mean? Whether I'm losing my freaking mind and going crazy, as soon as I step up to the microphone and I actually just let myself go, I literally let myself go. You know what I mean? Like I allow myself to forget about all the shit that was weighing me down. And, you know, like the lyrics kind of speak for themselves in those points. And I think that's kind of where a lot of that stuff came from too, is a lot of my lyrics were like swearing and I was pissed off and I was really like expressing how I was feeling, you
Stuff
know,
like
and
that
like
all the time. Wouldn't fly, would it really?
no, not at all. Believe me, like I know a lot of my stuff that I have wouldn't really necessarily be ready for radio because there's some swearing and stuff in it and stuff like that. And I never really thought about making like a clean version. We got clean versions and stuff now, so we're good to go. But you know, it's just you know, in the moment, I was quite literally in the moment. You know, like I was just saying what I needed to say and how I wanted to say it.
Are you looking towards releasing an EP album as a precursor for maybe a tour or a small tour of your local area?
Kind of actually. I have an EP that I've worked on. It's actually the very first EP that I finished as Cousin Floyd that not a lot of people have heard. It's called the Perks EP, and it's an album that I have I have a short film written for it, and I want to like shoot the short film and have it you know, kind of like be like a big ass music video. You know what I mean? But like a short film kind of vibe. But it was actually really bummed me out because the artist MGK came out with like a like break up high school or some sort of high school. Like it was like a 45-minute music video that was exactly the same kind of idea, you know. And I was just like, damn it, I knew I should have did it when I thought of it. You know what I mean? It was just, you know what I, you know,
You
and
pulled the
we
trigger
always kick
sooner.
ourselves in the butt for that, right? But yeah, and like that's kind of that's the next EP that I'm actually planning on releasing, and we've got a couple of shows that we're working on. We have a show that we're planning up here for the Lonely Boys, like a little lonely festival, in October. So we're planning. I'm trying to plan some stuff kind of around that they can all kind of like line up and do exactly that little tour for the album because I want to get that out.
Merchandise before we get going. Where can you get your merchandise?
Merchandise. Oh, you could find a lot of my merch, man. I mean, all my stuff for like my music, you can find it online, obviously, like Apple Music, all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure that there's even some magical way that they do physical copies on Amazon. But I've actually got I just got a new merch design created because I've always been very like picky and stuff on like merch stuff for myself. Um, But I've just got a brand new like merch design that I'm actually going to be getting ready to drop soon. So I'm going to, it's actually on my Instagram, the little mock up of it. But yeah, I'm going to have pre-orders and stuff available for that very soon. So I can get those going, and very excited to get those out. And then releases with like my full length album. I wanted to do like physical copies for those guys. And I just wanted to get the music out though, you know, because I sat on it for a long time, and it was just one of those things where it was just, it's a chapter of my life I needed to write out and get rid of. You know?
It's been an absolute pleasure. And please, before we go any further,
Thank you, man.
I would love you to come back and do a second part to this.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'd absolutely
Awesome.
love to. That'd be fantastic. That'd be
Who do
great.
you want to give a shout out to?
Honestly, man, I want to give a mad shout out to Mika Records, Dean, Christine, Derek at Finesse Management. Like all those guys are awesome. You yourself, man, it was an absolute pleasure. Like honestly, you're a friggin' gem, dude. I'm really, really honored to be able to sit down and just chat with you, and you know, and just talk about all this kind of stuff. So I'm it's an honor and a pleasure, and I thank you very much. And other shout out I probably want to give out lastly would just be my boys, Lonely Boys. You know, we're heading up we're going to Cleveland in August, so I'm excited as hell for that. So it's gonna be great.
Thank you very much indeed. Peace.
Thank you, man. All the best.
Have
Much
a
love.
great day.
Cheers. You as well.
Bye bye.